My name is Theresa, and thank you for coming. I appreciate your time, and I value your time. And I'm excited to share with you the body's ability to heal through comfort and relaxation. So what I love about Ortho Bionomy is that it uses ease, gentleness, and it's very effective for bringing bones and muscles and circulation back into balance. And also what I love about Ortho Bionomy is that it treats the whole person. It treats the physical, the mental, and the emotional self. And that comfort and relaxation heal. So that's a different way of thinking with body work. My experience with Ortho Bionomy is that I had a lot of pain and stiff joints from many broken bones, over many years of galloping thousands and thousands of racehorses. So Ortho Bionomy, so my body had gotten the feeling of being fragile and tight. I didn't feel like my back could move. I felt like I always needed to protect it. But Ortho Bionomy brought the bounce back. So I'm here to share that with you guys. And so here we go. My favorite story in the history of Ortho Bionomy is about an osteopath named Dr. Jones. And he was treating a client. It was a healthy male with intense back pain for 4 months. And Dr. Jones was about to admit failure because everything he tried didn't work. And the patient volunteered that maybe if he could sleep at night, because he was waking up every 15 minutes, if he could sleep at night, instead of waking up and needing to change positions because of pain, perhaps he could heal. And Dr. Jones, not knowing what else to do, put him on the table, and then he took his extremities and his torso, and he would take his arm and he would move it, and he would say, is this more painful or less painful? And he would always move towards comfort. And he did that with his extremities and his torso. So the man was in this wild and grotesque position, and he looked like he must be in strain. But in fact, for the first time in 4 months, he was comfortable and happy. So Dr. Jones left him on the table, went to treat another patient, and when he came back, the man was still happy and comfortable. So they talked about how he could get into this position for sleeping at night. Now imagine the astonishment and amazement when the man got off the table, stood up erect for the first time in 4 months, and almost pain-free. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how that happened. So to kind of understand a little better, I'll ask you to raise an arm over your head and bring it back down. Now this is when we have conscious control over our muscles. Now take your head very gently, maybe move it a little bit to one shoulder and the other, and then finding the side that it's easiest, that it moves easiest to, move it to that side, and then take your hand and take all the loose skin and hold on to that. So I'll be kind of like this and you'll be similar. And then see if you can straighten your head. So I can't. I'm holding on and I can hardly move my head. This is what happens when the nervous system locks up. So you guys can let go. I'll hang on, be the person. This is what happens when the nervous system locks up and our muscles aren't under conscious control. So that can happen in your shoulder, where the nervous system just tightens down, the muscles won't move, or it can happen in your back. So when this happens, and I'll demonstrate again, there's usually pain, and there's a shortening of tissue, and you can see that there's going to be a compression on one side of the joints. and there's also less blood flow. And then the other thing that happens is if I have a little kink here, eventually it's going to travel down. Compensation and patterns are going to travel down maybe into my shoulder. A lot of times things go diagonally to the other hip and maybe to the other knee. So we're going to have these compensation patterns. So how can I help you, and how does Ortho Bionomy work? So I'm going to use a metaphor. It's a pretty simple metaphor, and it's about a tent pole. So if you have a tent pole and it has 4 ropes and they're staked in the ground, the pole is balanced and all the tension's the same. The pole's balanced, then it's aligned, and the pole's pretty comfortable. But a wind comes up and it whips the pole around and causes a knot in one of the ropes. And now the pole has strain on it and it's towards the knot. So a person might take that pole and force it up, force it up, force it up, and get it pretty close to a line. But there's a lot of tension on that rope with the knot in it still. So another way of doing it, and the way Ortho Bionomy works, would be to take the pole and move it towards the knot and enough to create slack in it. And then undo the knot and let the tension in the other ropes bring the pole back up. And now the pole's aligned and the ropes are all even again and there's no tension. So what we do in Ortho Bionomy is, if I had a knot here and maybe it's strong enough that it's pulled a joint a little bit out of alignment, like the pole, I would find a comfortable position and move that towards the knot, because what that would do is allow the knot to contract. Because usually knots are not fully contracted and they can't extend. They have to know where they are to correct. So you compress, shorten it, let it fully contract. Now the other muscles on the other side are overextended and they're lacking tone. But when we do this, shorten this muscle, the reflexes in the body will tone these opposite muscles and allow the joint to come back over. So sometimes body work is that simple, but sometimes you need another reflex. And the other reflex we use are called proprioceptors. And proprioceptors are nerve endings that are very condensed in the joint and around the joint. And proprioception means perception of self. So what these nerves do is tell us where we are in space, how fast we're moving. Now, a classic example of a proprioception not working well would be if you took a step and the ground was uneven and you sprained your ankle. So now what has happened is when an injury occurs, with say the ankle sprain, a lot of the proprioceptor are damaged. And therefore, often we re-sprain that joint again and again because a lot of the communication has been lost and isn't working right. But Ortho Bionomy works with the proprioceptors and stimulates the proprioceptors. And how that works is, again, finding, if it was in my arm, finding a comfortable position, because comfort and relaxation, the body can reset itself, and we compress into the joint, and that stimulates the proprioceptors. Sometimes we use traction, but often it's a compression, and it stimulates the proprioceptors, and when that happens, the communication is better, and then maybe you won't sprain your ankle anymore. Now the third issue, so that's 2 issues that a client can come in with. The third issue is when we have physical patterns or energetic patterns that are a little deeper. And we have 2 ranges of motion. One is called the physiological, And that is, and actually you can follow along with me a little bit. That would be like take a finger and how much can you bend it. That's physiological, when you can move from the inside. Now anatomical, it uses a force from the outside. So take your other hand and see if you can get more range of motion in there. And that anatomical range of motion is it's a cushion. It's the cushion before we dislocate something. So we have that little bit of space to do a mild overextension without any harm. But with an injury, sometimes the physiological is just a little bit, and you still have the anatomical. So say you only have 10%, and you guys can relax. So say you only have 10% of use of your finger. Well, I, a practitioner, can see what's in the restrictive range, the anatomical range, and I can use isometrics or isotonics. I can use range of motion. I can use position and release, all working to stimulate these proprioceptors and see which ones want to come back online and then give you more of the physiological from the inside movement. Okay, so the fourth issue that people come in with are compensation patterns. And these can happen from incorrect posture, poor posture over a lifetime, or repetitive movements that weren't healthy, and also from just wear and tear, like my broken bones and falls and traumas. So there's different reasons why we get compensation patterns. But anyway, you have these where the muscles are tightening up. Maybe the spine is a little bit off here and there. Maybe the hips are locked up. And then you go to pick up a box on the ground and your back goes out. And you are mystified because your back never hurt before. Why picking up like a pencil? Why did this happen? Well, it was because the body had used all its flexibility up. And there was no more room for that. So
I had that happen with just brushing my teeth.
did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So I want to compare that to a ball of yarn. So you have a ball of yarn and it's a little tangled, and you start unwinding it and you come to a knot and you unknot it, and then you come to another knot and you unknot that, and maybe one more time you come to another knot and you unknot it. Now you have a usable piece of yarn. Well, the body's like that. So if you came in to my office and your back hurt, I would start with your back, but then I would also follow the other patterns that are in the body, maybe in the neck or the shoulders, far away from the site, but definitely related to the site where you lost your flexibility. So our founder, Dr. Pauls, compared our bodies to water running down a hill, and he said that water, as it runs down a hill, it doesn't need anyone to tell it how to get down the hill. It can find its way. And our bodies, given information, the correct information, can also find their way back into balance. So it's giving the proprioceptors enough information to remember what it already knows. So the two principles, and Ortho Bionomy is a principle-based system. The two principles that we spoke about today are exaggerate the pattern and always move towards comfort. And now I'd like to move into the other room and show you what a part of a session would look like.
Great.
Okay?
Great.